Hey, it is Tuesday. It's Trekland HQ here, and we are live. Hey, Section 31. Whose side are you on, Star Trek? Today on, yes, episode, oh my gosh, 380, are we 6? Of Trekland Tuesdays live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemechek, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47. Yes, 386. Always good to know that. Trekland has been very busy these days. Coming at you here from the heart of Trekland in Portal 47. Everything Trekland Treks. Yes, Trekland Treks, your own customizable away mission around actual Southern California location sites. Get in touch with me at larrynemechek.com or Trekland Treks. Sorry, gang. Today has been a doozy of a Tuesday, and there's still more to go. I feel like I'm going to be chained in the studio here all day, but it's all for good. It's all for good. It's a crazy catch-up time. And there's so much going on in Star Trek, even though on one hand it feels like it's a little bit lacking here. Lackadaisical. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for finding yourself here. If you are new to Trekland Tuesdays Live, you want to find your way to the chat. I'm going to have a topic today, a little soapbox, and then we will dive into the chat. Now, today, you want to get in there, so say your hellos. Let us know what's going on with you, what's happening with the weather, what's happening with your trek, wherever in the world you are, because at this time of day, we can get Europe, we can get East Asia, and yes, South America and Africa too, we've even had. Glad to see everybody with us, our regulars and whatever new folks come by. Please make everybody welcome. Just remember that if you're here on YouTube, hey, we're monetized now. You can cross my palms with silver and do a super chat. That is always much appreciated. And I will look for those questions first and give them a little higher priority. But if you're on YouTube or Twitch, you will see all the questions. If you're only on Facebook, you're only going to see only the Facebook questions, okay? And so don't be confused. And hey, if you are watching us later on YouTube, maybe you can join us live on some Tuesday when everything is in sync and you can be with us here fresh and interact with the rest of the community too. But if you're watching later on YouTube, that's cool. Please jump in with the comments, right? And let us know what's happening. Keep the conversation going, because this is one that's going to have a lot of conversation. For one, right now, we're a little Trek starved. We're a little Trek poor. We had, a couple of years there of peak Trek. We had fresh Trek every week, most of at least 50 weeks a year. Actually not, because they overlapped. Remember the weeks we had overlapping departing shows with new premieres? Picard to Strange New, or Strange New into lower, whatever. Those are long ago and far away. And as we keep saying, until the new owners of Star Trek are settled, Paramount, and until the streaming world figures itself out, continues to evolve anyway, some of those questions are going to be up. Will we ever have 5 series on in production at once again? In that same model, especially, we'll see. Those are questions for down the road. But right now, we are still in a year when we have Strange New Worlds coming along, 3rd season this year. They are now filming the 4th season. Academy will be along, maybe not until early next year, but they've gotten a 2-season order. I was looking back and researching. Section 31 had a 2-season order just on the eve, before anyone had ever seen it, on the eve that pandemic blew everything up. And that's what I'm going to get to. We've got Treks on the way. What will happen down the future? Because right now, we've already seen the first few years of Star Trek's, the role that fate and galactic events, or at least world events, played. Because somewhere between a hot new show and format and potential coming along with Anson Mount's Pike and a COVID pandemic, messing up the original plan for, yes, Section 31, which would have been the original spinoff for the show. Now, let's just get to it. If you haven't seen it yet, my second opinion for Section 31 dropped last night. It's out there now. We did it early so we could get around the delays that I knew Star Trek San Francisco, the creation show we were just at last weekend. And if you were there, glad you could make it. Good to see so many folks live again for the first time in a long time. First con of the year for me, anyway. And it was great to see a lot of excitement and fun there. A lot of people excited for Section 31, a lot not so much. And that's my topic for today. In the big pastiche that is Star Trek now in transition, here we have this holdover meant to be a series got pulled into just being a TV movie, but the first of its kind. And what does that mean? And most of all kinds of questions since day one about what this is going to be, how it changed gears. Look, if you haven't seen it yet, keep watching here, but I'd appreciate if you go over and catch my second opinion. You can always go back and look at the old ones too, all the priors, the last 2 or 3 years. But several points hit me, and let me just go through here, because something happened this weekend at Star Trek San Francisco, at the Creations Trek to San Fran. I know it drives people from the Bay Area crazy when you say San Fran. It just makes all kinds of sense to me, but SF, it will always be confused with science fiction. And the Bay Area is like 5 syllables. The Bay Area. Come on, get out of here. Someone, if you've been keeping up with the public sphere about Section 31 since it dropped, that's what I want to get to today. You can see my, not so much review, but reaction to Section 31, the movie, on my second opinion. I may dovetail a little bit with that, but I want to get to something bigger, which is what you all think and what Trek World at large is thinking. And it's funny because we have some stats, we have some numbers, but there's also this human element, right? And I think it's, once again, a few weeks back, there was a lot of, I was challenging people to keep an open mind for Section. I would do this for any series coming down the pike. I always do, those of you that know me. And again, if you're just coming in, hang on, I'll get to the chat in a little bit specifically. One thing I do need to say is that I have a hard out in an hour. We're only going to have an hour today. I have to be at it 2 Pacific, right? Couple minutes till. So let me get through this and we'll see how much we have time for bonkers questions. Throw something at you. I saw lots of reviews of Section 31, disappointed, just meh. You did too. The whole first wave, with 1 or 2 exceptions. I think The Verge was one exception. Whether it was the trades, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, etc., or it was some of the leading fan reviewers, professional, semi-professional sites, that all very astute reasons, no one trashing, no one just, screaming, yelling, being crude, being erudite about it, but talking about why they were disappointed in the movie's outcome. A few places, as I tried to do with my reaction, talked about reviewing the crazy journey that this whole project has been. First as a TV show, as a developed TV show, a spinoff in the early excitement about Michelle Yeoh, and then delays with COVID, and also with Michelle Yeoh's career taking off and not having the time to do 6 months for a series. She was Oscar winning. She was going places. And yet she still wanted to do the project. And my predictions that it would be a backdoor pilot with her departing the format and the rest of the team being around. Not to exclude her, but to just make it possible to keep it going as a viable thing, despite her schedule. Well, I was wrong on that. But in the bigger picture, what is correct? What is right? What is the future? Those question marks we don't know. But what we do know right now is people's reaction to this project, this 90-minute TV movie. We saw so many of the legit, I say, and big-time reviewers not like it. I saw a lot of people in fandom getting braced for something. And then a funny thing happened on the way to the reveals, the drop, which happened over Friday when I was just at the Creation San Fran show. A lot of pushback, a lot of people declaring that they enjoyed it. A lot of people saying that it wasn't the worst thing I'd ever seen. A lot of people kind of in the middle, kind of, well, it was fun. It wasn't the worst. It wasn't the best. So it's been interesting to see that first wave of opinion, and then almost a pushback, and even a pushback about the reviewers. How dare you elitists talk so badly? I enjoyed it. Now, I'm going to be curious to see what everybody thinks. We'll all have an opinion. I've had two thoughts here specifically. One, I wondered if we might see a generational breakdown on this, only because, can I say, veteran fans, longer time fans, I think are still steeped in the TOS, TNG, Voyager DS9 aesthetic, feeling like they're seeing a little bit of that with Strange New. Everybody wondering what the vibe of Academy is going to be. And Academy may really be a breakthrough in tone. People coming over to love Lower Decks and Discovery. In fact, I've got some stats here to show in a second. But, the reaction of where things are evolving to, some folks still won't give anything Kurtzmira the time of day. Notice I'm not even talking about the Kelvin movies. They're kind of a non sequitur. They're not TV. So to me, they're just kind of, they're there, but they're their own thing. Now I'm talking about the reaction of how people reacted to Section 31, looking at it in the lens, and I'm fine with it being Section 31, even though I'm with everybody who says Section 31 seems an anathema, but we've been having this conversation ever since DS9, right? Late DS9, and Bashir, and Sloan, and all of that. And then Enterprise goes and puts it pre-Federation. Section 31 started with the Earth Starfleet Charter before we even infected the rest of the galaxy. A galaxy that already had, I should say, the Tal Shiar with the Romulans. And everybody else's, like secret police, right? Secret spy agency, whatever. Security force. Every major empire government has one. No, I was talking, if you watch and if you see Second Opinion, talking about the tone and the vibe. Can it really be a lilting kind of fun caper heist, original Mission Impossible, not the overly sleek Tom Cruise version, but the original Desilu, or Wild Wild West, and that kind of scamper caper, or Leverage, even. The original Avengers, Steed and Peel, those Avengers. Something in that kind of tone. And I don't think it made it. I don't think the birth pangs of this were as painful as Discovery's. But I'm just going to say, I think a lot of the shock value of starting off that was developed for 2 years at least as a series, and then, yes, as Alex has said in a recent interview, 10-episode season with highlights pushed into a 2-hour, 90-minute movie. I don't think that's a shock to the system of any original creative thought. And it feels like it's a trade-off. Other production pieces too. The huge sets with 2 people look like they had budget cuts come in. The bar scene, the casino that had a lot of potential, but looked like a lot of those background folks with costumes and makeup and all that were kind of wasted, sadly. I would have liked to have seen some more of them. And the choreography, we've got Michelle Yeoh. We need 10-minute fight sequences. Those are all questions. But I don't know if it was still a whipsaw, a whiplash to get it carved down from the season-long arc with Boy Kim and Erica Lippel's names still attached as executive producers. They would have been the showrunners of a series when there was no series to showrun, only a one-off. Craig Sweeney, who had been in the original writer's room, apparently took this over. It occurred to me also in Second Opinion that we've seen this before. I saw all those spoilers if you didn't realize it. We're going to talk about it here in a minute. So if you have not seen Section 31 and want to keep it, I suggest you leave the room now, please. Because what I want to say is, now that you've safely left, because you've safely left by now, it put me in mind. I kept thinking about all these characters that were leaving, that were losing, going down in battle. A lot of the team disappeared, gone, died. Realizing that they'd probably all originally been conceived to be recurring characters. And I went, oh, just like Ilea and Decker. were originally running characters joining the cast to be the new fresh faces for phase 2, or such as we called it later, right? The original series, it would have been the Star Trek that launched the original fourth network, the old Paramount network that didn't happen back in 77, 78. And Decker and Ilea, along with Zahn to replace Spock, who then was made moot when Spock came to the motion picture, when the phase 2 series pilot was cobbled up to be the movie that Paramount finally answered the sci-fi craze in Star Wars with in a hurry. But just think, in the original pilot for the series, Decker and Ilea don't die. They're regular characters. What would that have looked like if Decker and Ilea had joined the regular cast as regulars? It's a what if that people love to talk about and debate, much less if Zahn had been in the mix instead of Spock. But we've got a parallel here. Slightly different. Phase 2 was going to launch the Paramount Network. This was just launching the TV movie vibe. Well, a series. It would have been another series on Paramount Plus. And now it's become the launch pin or not of more TV movies, of this or something else, this format, Section 31. But what would Mel and Zeph is gone? Zeph is retrievable. What would they all have looked like? And apparently we've got, we've got people coming back that we didn't know. We've wound up with a core 4, 5. And Georgiou does not take off. She stays with them, implying that anything future would have had her involved, not waving goodbye to the cast going on without her. What would this have looked like had they all been regular characters? That's a mystery for the ages. We'll never know, at least the way things stand right now. But mostly in that pushback among fans, mostly, because I'm looking at the Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter of critics is only at 20%. People are talking about how this is even lower than whatever your least favorite movie was or series. It's lower than Into Darkness. It's lower than Nemesis. And then the fan response, the popcorn meter, which used to be the audience scope, it's 17. It's even lower than the critics. And yet I see tons of fans pushing back, talking about it. Now, here's the thing. I was starting to put this together until I heard a fan at Mission to San Francisco just state this so clearly. But I saw a lot of people talking about the first thing out of their mouth, talking about why they enjoyed Section 31. It's all about Georgiou. Talking about how she's starting to get a redemption arc. How, yes, she was a sociopathic killer. This movie sets up her own personal tragedy, her own personal story, which we never had before. She's just the Empress of the Terran Empire. We even get more insight in the Terran Empire here, right? It's not a Starfleet movie at all. Yes, we've got Rachel Garrett, and she's never, ever, ever even in a Starfleet uniform. She shows up undercover and stays that way through the whole movie, outside of their custom black leather. What I'm trying to say here is, what would it have been like? Everybody that loves the movie takes it from a Georgiou point of view. They talk about how it adds to her story, adds to her redemption. She has much further to go. Now she's got a co-pilot in that journey now. With a call, he's an augment, a human augment, trying to find his own redemption of sorts. And I thought, oh, not Section 31, not all the pieces of the puzzle. I've seen people say, what does this really add to critiques saying, what does this really add to Star Trek? Well, after I got into my second opinion, it adds a lot, actually. It's not on the surface. I've got more insights now about the Terran Empire in the years we didn't see it. Not that I really cared, but it's there. Just a little bit more about the scope of things, the east side of the Federation. Stupid straight line, this Treaty of Catan that's been invented, but it does explain why all the first couple of centuries exploration went eastward and nobody got into Cardassians, Bajorans, Ferengi, Breen, Zenkethi, and even Talarians until, close to close to Picard's time, the 2250s and 2350s and 60s, say 10 years before Next Generation's era and then onward. Why that was so late to the radar scope of conflicts and all. Although the Tholians are down below. The Tholians are at the bottom on that side. Here's what did it for me. Young woman was up at the microphone during my State of the Trek fan forum, kind of closed out Sunday. 100, 150 people in the room. It's Sunday afternoon. A lot of folks have gone. And a young woman said, as we talked about all these things in play, and the people that originally reviewed it and were saying, it's not Star Trek for me, and what's the point, and what does it add? 15-minute fight sequences, bleh. One woman said, the people who enjoyed it keep talking about what they did and had very astute reasons to say so. And this young woman said, what would be our conversation now had, instead of calling this movie Star Trek Section 31, it had been called Star Trek Georgiou. Let that sink in a minute. Wait a minute. We have never had a precedent where Star Trek series were just named for the last name. Oh, wait. Yes, we have. So here's to you, Star Trek Picard. Showing, an ongoing personal arc of a character. Because her point was exactly what I was picking up. The people who enjoyed the movie gravitated right to it from the perspective of Georgiou's personal arc. And everything else was just in service of that. The Section 31 cued all of us into looking at it through that lens. Did you initially like Section 31? Are they going to be true to a Section 31 that doesn't violate everything Gene wanted to do? Can we have a lighthearted Section 31, not the evil devil 31 that fought Discovery and pushed it into the future and caused them to, take the sphere and blow up? All of that, which, because I'm happy in canon of having a huge pendulum swing regarding 31. It's there. It's low key. It gets out of control. 10 years for Kirk and Spock. It's kind of put down almost. Kirk never mentions it, although covert missions, Enterprise cloaking device incident, are still happening even over the next century. Yes, we skip over the time of this movie, and even Next Gen, where it was never mentioned, we get the Pegasus in the same era. And also the raid on Minas Corva. We get the raid that leads to There Are Four Lights in Chain of Command. Seem quasi. Is it Starfleet intelligence, or are we doubling up here on assignments and people and personnel and titles and desk plaques? What would calling it Georgiou have done for your perception, much less the conversation? Because right now it's not doing well on tomato meters. A lot of people are standing up for it. Some of the legit press is. A lot of people are just meh. They may be disappointed that it didn't give more, but they're saying it's not the worst ever. But indifference never won ratings wars. Outright rejection, yeah. Indifference, meh, middling, I don't know. And a lot of people, of course, are critical of the movie because they say because of this, no one will ever attempt, none of the powers that be, especially the incoming powers that be, might not feel like trying the TV movie format again, whether it's another Section 30 movie or something else. And brother, there's plenty of topics I'd love to see covered. Budget's always a concern. And this one seems like it suffered at times, maybe even after production had started or right on the eve of production, having some budget items yanked. But the cast does wonderfully with what they're given to do, I think. Some of them really go for it, and that's saying something. And then, having the cameo at the end, I'll save off on that just in case. That was interesting. And you get it. People Michelle Yeoh has worked with in the last few years. That gets eyeballs. This is all about... nobody wants to do anything to sink the... This is just like the beginning of Discovery. You may not enjoy Discovery, hopefully for good reasons, not for stupid, racist, misogynist reasons. But even if you had legit criticisms, statements about as a production or just in Star Trek universe. You don't tank it because that tanks the franchise. And I've seen some reticence on that with the movie. And I have to say that the first time I watched it, I thought all the exposition was clunky and it felt very just no finesse, no nuance. And that's exactly what I wanted. But my viewing was interrupted. I came back to it later and felt a little better about the rest of it, and then watched it again. Every time I've watched it, I felt a little better about it. Do I still want to go to bat for these characters and want to see tons of adventures with them? I'm most interested in Rachel Garrett because I know she has this incredible future ahead. And what is this weirdness she has with anomalies and vortexes and dimensional rifts? Must be in her DNA. She's attractive to those kind of oddball situations. But yeah, I wound up finding things. I've wound up finding things that it added to the Trek universe. As I keep saying, a happy dappy crew on a happy dappy ship having happy dappy missions? No, it is not. But you kind of knew the job was dangerous when you took it that way. I was just transfixed by the most invested people who are the happiest to see this with their reactions are the folks who saw it through the Georgiou lens, who they love Michelle Yeoh, and who doesn't. I still don't think this is, of all the success she's had lately, Crazy Rich Asians and Somewhere Something All the Time or whatever it was. Everything else, just far more powerful and just a better display of her talent than anything. So that's it. Is that generational? Did this movie even deliver on the snarky Guardians of the Galaxy kind of, banter? Did we not just physically be able to have the characters long enough to get invested that way? There were times when it seemed like, and nothing on the actors, it just seemed like everybody was trying so hard in the beginning to give us so much so fast. Had it been a series, would that have all played out a little more gradually? It took 3 or 4 or 5, 6 episodes to realize what the Spock-McCoy banter duel of wits was going to turn into being, right? Sometimes those things just take a little while to develop. They don't spring out eternal at first blush in a pilot. And that's basically what this turned into being, a 90-minute pilot for a series that may not happen. Won't happen, maybe a series of movies. And there were lots of fun moments. Some things that just felt either rushed or they were just under budgeted, sadly. But then a lot of good points. And yes, go over and watch my second opinion. Scott and Kyle did a great job on it. I even redeemed a little bit of my opinion on that clunky delivery of exposition at the beginning when I realized it was an homage. So, yeah. Now, I'm going to leave it there. We've got half an hour or so here to talk. I'm curious about your reactions, but I'm really curious to see what you thought about that pivot. Would the whole conversation everywhere have been different had they reframed it and revived with that name? Now, I don't know if anybody realized that. Who might have known that was a smart move? It's always been called Section 31. Would it be bad promo, bad marketing to change the name so late after we've had it in the zeitgeist for over 5 years? And not up until early 2023 did it get transformed into a movie that was then shot in 2024. After Discovery had gone down using their stages, and I swear to God, a couple of those cavernous stages with 2 people, at most 4, but doing fight choreography, so you could bring in 4 cameras at a time, shooting different angles. The reason we have these huge cavernous sets and only 2 people or 3 people work there, or might, is to capture all that. Let's see what you had to say, gang. Okay. We're going to keep this one as kind of a short one. But I will say, I'm going to take a moment to thank all of our TTLers, our Trekland Tuesdays live club here. You get your thoughts together while I thank Chuck A., James Kerwin, Diana Hopkins, Halbert Gunjansson, Lawrence Ton, Justin Weir, Mitch Keith, Andrew Jazimski, Josh Patton, Pranakasha Productions, Chris Jiggins, Keith Rumbeck, and Comedy Forecast. And our live wires, and our very simple Patreon, yes. Jesse at Crusher Convo, Greg Wickstrom, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Gary Williams, James Durovich, Dave Gregory, Dan Leckie, and Casey Shafsky, who it was great to see last weekend in San Fran, by the way. And yes, it is still a simple Patreon. Boom, just $5 and $10 a month. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. We'd love it if you could join in and help support. You could do more if you want to. And if that's Patreon. You know how Patreon works. Let's see what's going on. And again, reacting to my basic vibe of, does a younger generation just naturally gravitate toward what I thought was going to be dark, gritty, wicked humor, but I don't always know that they fulfilled it. Oh, Michelle was in there swinging all the time. I just think they tried the compression of 10 episodes highlights down to 90 minutes, not even 2 hours. Was a pretty big hurdle. Let me also say, by the way, just so you know, some numbers. I know we're talking about all this as unquantifiable, but quantifiable numbers. Well, here's an interesting bit. Paramount Plus puts out its own numbers, right? And there's several apps that try to put a handle on streaming. For years, the first few years of Trekland Tuesdays Live, we followed the parrots until they became commercial. They didn't share their data publicly anymore. But another site called Flix Patrol, you can look daily. On Paramount Plus, the number one movie on Paramount Plus on January 25th, i.e. 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, Saturday. So day 2 of the showing, Section 31 was the number one movie by far on Section 31. What's funky is on the 26th, it was still number one. So, it's being there. Around the world, the top 10 movies on all of Paramount Plus around the world, it averaged a 1. It was 1 in all these countries. It was number 2 in the United States for the week. But then again, there's lots of movies. And it only had 2 of those days of the week, just to remember. So, oddly enough, in the U.S., it skewed it. Most of the rest of the world, it was number 1. It was number 2 in the States. So that's kind of funny that it skewed that way. Today, taken this morning, Section 31 is still number 1 in the U.S. On that. It's actually been number 2 as far as a rentable, downloadable, payable movie for $37.99 on Amazon Prime. It's been number 2 today. Kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. But number 1 in all these countries, small and large. Number 1 in the UK. Talking about just the last day, 1 or 2 or 3 days in a row. And you'd have to say, and by far bigger. The next biggest thing, let's say in the States, the next big movie today, 278, not sure what these numbers refer to, but if Section 31 is number 1 at 278 views per 1,000, whatever that is, or 1,000 views, A Quiet Place Day 1 is next with 162. So it's like 1.5 times, over 1.5 times, 1.6 times. And then everything comes down from there, 162, 144, 119 on Paramount Plus, again, admittedly. And just for comparison, can I just pop this out? Star Trek Prodigy has been number 105 on Netflix for the year. Just to say, also had that. The top series on Paramount Plus in the last year, this is the whole last year with an engagement score, they call it, Discovery was number 5 for the whole last year. Just for Friday, past Friday the 24th, Lower Decks was 7th on Paramount Plus. Discovery was number 9, and Strange New was number 11 on Paramount Plus. Landman was number 1, then Younger 1923, and The Mayor of Kingstown, then Tulsa King 1883, and then 7th was Lower Decks. Just to say, there's some numbers. Let's see what people are saying. And again, I have a hard out at 5 till the hour. So we got 30 minutes. Let's see what you all are thinking. Is it a generational thing? If you're over 40 or so, do you still miss what you want of your older Star Treks, and you wanted this to be? Were you never going to give it a chance? Did you give it a chance and get this? Were you midway? Either you had pluses and minuses, or the whole thing was just mad at you. Or did you enjoy it? Were you led by the reaction to Georgiou's arc, or the beginnings of her redemption arc? Anything else? I will say I thought the visual effects were excellent. Let's see. And I'm just going to say, everybody, I'm in a marathon today because I just had the European Portales for 2 hours before we got this going. And then I have a Trek Files to record. And then we're doing the primetime Portal 47 folks tonight at 7 Pacific. So it's kind of a marathon for me, and a marathon week. But I want to see what you're into. Yes. Hey, Liebchen, you actually like Section 31. Come on, show me. There we go. Sure, it wasn't quite Star Trek, but I liked it for what it is. Well, that's a very broad-minded view. There we go. Hello, Jill. Is this your first time with us? Just saying. Glad you're here. Yes, Liebchen, it is Wednesday, not Tuesday. Ha 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 ha. Oh my gosh, Sherry or Ma Baloney. Wildfires in the NC Mountains in the flood areas. Yikes. That's like the burn scars we have here. And lots of flu. Yeah, everybody take care out there, man. Joel, it was good to see you in San Fran. I love saying San Fran, even if it makes them cringe. Sherry, you really tried the first 5 minutes. Yeah, I know. But it had some scope. That was the other scene. I thought, well, they shot this on location and the casino scene, and then everything else just seemed like they hoovered the budget right out of it. Yes. Yes, Christoph, long time no see. Oh, you got me back before I got you, Joel. Yeah, exactly. Hey, Zahir. It was a little San Francisco was a little smaller than the one last year, which is what was predicted because of the spread of the other regional cons. A lot of folks from the East Coast didn't fly in. And they announced they're going to skip it a year for 26 and come back in 27, which may elevate the demand there. Did Ollie buy me a Dr. Pepper like you asked? Yes, he did. Everybody on Facebook now counting this as a good sign. Hi, Jill. Was it a thumbs up or a thumbs down review? I didn't review it. I reacted, which I never thought about before until this particular project. I brought up a lot of things that I learned. I will disagree with those who say it doesn't add anything to the Star Trek universe. There are all kinds of second level like implications and inferences that are there. And that's what I pointed out for, I guess, 38 minutes. But it made me want to ask a lot of questions of people that I hope they respond to in the comments, such as what we're kind of talking about here. What kind of a movie was this for you? Is this what you want to see more of? Do you want to see more Section 31? Are you shocked that she apparently was ready to be part of that because she stayed in the final frame and didn't sayonara anywhere? I don't know. So it was middling to up But I pointed out lots of my criticisms, what I've kind of danced through here, that it looked like the budget axe took a toll. It looked like it's the opposite of stretch marks, the compression marks from having come down from a full season. Yeah. You watched Second Opinion and you tried to watch and didn't even get to see Michelle. Couldn't get through that opening teaser, the cold open. Yeah. Hey, Dan. Oh, that's very kind of you. You love watching my review of Section 31. Your current recording room is a lot quieter than your former one, so it's pretty cool. You mean with the ambulances and the sirens and everything? Yes. Although now we have aircraft, but apparently people say the aircraft don't register. You liked Section 31. Yes. Ocean's 31. That's cute, Melanie. Especially Michelle Yeoh, but I didn't love it as much as Star Trek for the Whales. It was better than the Kelvin reboots. See, now we're getting differentiation here. Rose, hello to you. Glad to see you as always. Are you implying here, Rose, that you watched Section 31 8 times? Hey, Melanie, as a 95-minute pilot, it was too rushed. A series or a 2-hour movie would be better in order to fill in details. You thought it was rushed? I just thought it was empty in a lot of places. Oh, I've been meaning to check in on this because a year ago, open house of fall 23, he was. Well, I wonder if that I didn't even know if it was still happening. Audio drama is anyone. I went through twice analyzing it, and I finally watched it last night just to watch it straight through. Bored out of your mind. I know the fight sequences bore me, but that's the way I am with all the Marvel movies. Barely in Jason Bourne. It was a quirk in those, and now it's become a thing. But I think I've heard a lot of people say they were completely bored. Who was emperor before Georgiou? We had a theory or a wish list that came out of our portales, the Europeans and the midday Americans were hoping that maybe they'd made Empress Hoshi empress for 90 years and let her be the aging empress who sets up the Hunger Games. But I called it that too. Yeah, I always thought that the Terran Empire just ran its leadership like the Klingons, especially old school Klingons did. In battle or somebody assassinated. And Georgiou does say there are always plotters and coups and plotters, she says. But apparently they had enough structure that she was really a tough broad, which she apparently was. But if she had been empress from the time she was 40 years, 35 or 40 years, she'd been the empress and survived, including, yes, Christoph, that's what we were saying. Ooh, Jill, yeah. Yeah, those are not fun. Well, I'm sure that could be a future flashback show, Melanie. We're going to see. Hi, May. I'm still in pleased shock about that Will Rogers photo album, souvenir, gift shop souvenir. Section 31 did have Oscar award-winning costuming and set design. Yeah, but the set designs were so cavernous. They had to get the 4 cameras. I thought a lot of the costuming and maybe the makeup was great. I could tell it was there. I just couldn't see any of it. I feel like they didn't. I wish they'd done more with it in the casino scenes. John X. For Life Support Live Part 3. Life Support Live on stage Part 3. Yeah. Are you going to get to ever see it? We'll probably do one at Virtual TrekCon. We'll see how that goes. Hand pink waving. How did she come to adopt Michael Burnham in the Mirror Universe? Did she go back to Carl and he helped Georgiou escape? Melanie, you just got all these questions. You've just got all these questions. Yes, for all the hand-wringing and worry about how, horrible and corrupt, and I'm here to make sure murders are not committed, they didn't really push the envelope that much. It was just a slapdash chase, outwit, with 10-minute, is Starfleet intelligence not allowed to have 15-minute fight sequences? Because then you'd have to bleed over to Section 31. Oh, yes. So, but hi, Trek Reviewer. Yes, indeed. Is this your first time to make it by a Tuesday? I don't know. Remind me. But good to see you. Good to see you. Oh, Sean, doing your own Section 31. You heard the budget for 31 was $80 million. For that money, I could get 350 remastered discs. Yes. Well, this is the most severe criticism. It was just a waste of time and energy, and could we have put all that time and energy into something else? And I feel bad for Michelle Yeoh that she stuck with it and was loyal, and I don't know. Hey, Dan D. Exismir. Hi. Is this your first time through on a Tuesday? Maybe I'm off. Not sure. Disco jumped all over the place from one century to another. Where is Daniel's Dr. Kovich? I'm guessing he's with Control. Spoilers. Yeah. She ate an eyeball. She was trying to warn him off. She did that in front of, a lock and alarm. Okay, got about 20 minutes. This was one of the biggest parts of it. World building for the Terran Empire. Timelining for the Terran Empire. Do we care? See, that's part of it. I love Michelle Yeoh. She's awesome. I just never cared about Georgiou. So the last thing I was focused on was, it's a redemption. I mean, I was looking at what it meant for the Terran Empire. But I'm sorry. Her name was Joy. Do you know her last name, May? Because we were talking about this. This may come up again. It was perfect. What if, as I said, what if it had been named Star Trek Georgiou and not Star Trek Section 31? Would our framing and our whole vibe of the thing been refocused? Stop eating eyeballs and we'll talk. Yes, indeedy. She likes to shock with food. That is true. Yeah. Kelpian. Saru's ganglia remain unconvinced. We'll see if somehow Sato was there. Sato, Hoshi could set up this process. Excuse me. Yeah, how does a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, whatever, even 18-year-old survive in that climate? It's not exactly Victoria being the Princess Regent. Oh, Dan, when did you ask Glenn this? Ask if Zeph's suit was meant to be a Borg suit, and he said no, but Borg stolen tech from multiple cultures that he bashed together, always upgrading and swapping out parts. He even paints it different colors as the mood strikes. We include that in the details, layers of chip paint and worn layers of old finishing techniques. When did you get to interview Glenn, Dan? Because that's one up on me. So on your list, Cake, it is 40 episodes of Prodigy Lower Decks, plus Georgiou with fewer fight scenes, plus Kovich. Then I need to get better acquainted. Thank you for that. Hey, Southern Taran. The Merv plushie was a con exclusive of New York Comic Con a couple of years ago when Prodigy was about to premiere and was hot. I thought it was going to be retail, but it was never retail. And yeah, they never went with the line. They became rare, and I had friends somewhere between Marina Kravchuk and the great Anne Marie Siegel. I think Anne Marie got it actually for me and picked it up in Vegas then in a few months or somewhere along the way. Yes, I agree. It's bizarre. I just kept thinking of if this is how this works, then what is this? My first thought was, oh, look, it's the Terran Empire, all this advanced tech, and they're living subsistence. Okay, well, that's just the way. That's just the way. Jill, you're preaching to the choir, Jill. Preaching to the choir. Dominic, thank you. Great season 13 Trek Files episode 1. Thank you for that. Yes. It just came up, and I was like, I'm glad we were able to get to Larry Niven and talk about Kazinti then and now. And thank you for that about Section 31. Actually, Dominic, I've heard from backstage that Section 31 happens in 2333, 11 years before Enterprise C in yesterday's Enterprise. How are we doing? Well, John, the border map graphic is pretty close. It's just that whole Treaty of Catan was something totally new. And having it go by sectors or whatever those straight lines were. And I said in Second Opinion, there are clearly planets visited in Kirk's time, if not later, beyond that, including 2 star bases, which then in my head retcon meant that you're always looking straight down, right? So that those 2 Federation star bases behind the Catan no-go line meant that they must be above. They must be above the layer where the line comes into play. And again, I like the idea that the exploration and contact toward the west, toward that direction, deeper toward the galaxy's rim in the Alpha Quadrant was stymied by this treaty, because that explains why, the initial draw toward the Romulans, because the Romulan War happens, and then the Klingons are right there. But why was nothing done sooner? No contact with Cardassians and Bajorans and Ferengi and Tholians and Breen and Zenkethi. Why not much that way? And that would explain it. I just don't know about that precision of a line, but I think we can massage it. But it was a good take right off of the maps, pretty much. You stand. Hey, Dondi, you're with the Curse Section 31 crowd. There we go. And there you go. Yeah, it was. There were like blurps of banter, but it was more like they were talking over each other, arguing. It was more like the kids in the back seat, and somebody, a lock or somebody had to go, hey, you kids, straighten up back there. I'm going to turn this garbage scow around if you don't calm down. Analysis. Is it good or bad? I think everyone should watch it. Everyone needs to watch it and have your opinion, and then you decide what you want to do with it. Let's see. Hey, Duncan. Not even close to Guardians. Yeah. Yeah, it's Baby Murph. Well, think of it as you got through the first. You can skip over what you saw and start up after that. There is the eyeball scene, but after that, there's nothing really outrageous. And there you go, Dan. You're just pretty open-ended, open-minded, right? Right. Yeah. I agree, Jill. Murph is at that awkward age. Right. Duncan, it was horrible objectively. Need to petition someone for a season 3. Yeah. Or just get the viewing numbers up for 2. Dominic, you thought the let's get messy line was about having friends with benefits. And that in this case, the sexy friend was chaos. Well, that was quasi deep in a textured way. Yeah, Alex Kurtzman at Comic-Con, at San Diego Comic-Con, he said Section 31 was the messy Star Trek, and I guess that came from that line. You know Keith Rombach, so do I. He's one of my Patreons. It's okay, Christian. So am I. I'm checking in late this week. Yeah. Sorry, Carl. Yeah, I had to delay from yesterday. John X, the Section 31 movie is polarizing. Thank you for sending me those ratings clips, by the way. But lucky it's doing very well. The greatest interest that will lead to maybe 2 TV movies a year. I know. Not necessarily Section 31, but some of these topics we can get one-off movies into. That would be great. Yeah. Over 80 million. It was too underwhelming for your taste. Okay. I thought about this too, Melanie. What did Giorgio say in Dada No's ear about what she did to make some other guy talk? And then he immediately starts talking. Yeah. Dominic, your question would be, how does the no oversight get explained? Why is Rachel there? I love to see her, but it's bugged some people because Sloan says no Federation oversight. Well, Sloan says that, and it is 40 years later. I mean, everybody keeps acting like a lot of things in Star Trek, but we've got 3 centuries spanning now, and then you've got the 800 years up. And things happen. Everything from what's going on with Orions to what's going on with, again, my perception of is Section 31 in the doghouse or the public house or what? And that changes wildly. Lots can happen. They can fly at warp speed, So Sloan is basically 40 years later. Yeah. Very, very funny. Very funny. Okay. I've got about 10 minutes here, gang. Let's see. Very open-minded of you, Dan. Yes. It's got to the point where I have a hard time having a fave. I know what I've spent more eyeballs in front of, and I'm sure that's probably the original series and or TNG. Carl, I am shocked. That's some real life you've been having lately. I hope everything's okay. It's coming up on I guess it's been 5 days? Friday through Wednesday now. Yes, rain did. Without too much, scarred area mudslide. You would rewatch Section 31 before you rewatched Into Darkness. Poor old Stid. I thought the phasing was interesting and curious and fun to use in the way. I just understand why her ankle first phased out and then came back. I never saw any real, yep. Hey, Stephen, good to see you, man. Yes, indeed. And your whole new franchise you have. I kind of thought this. I thought all the worries about how dark Section 31 would be, it was more of a caper or a heist movie. Yeah. No dark underbelly at work, which was the worry, but then it was nothing to worry about. Yeah, there was no reason for Rachel to be there to police anybody. They didn't do anything really shady. It was just all pretty straightforward. Oh. Oh no. It was Tasha's home planet. Tarkana 4. And 2333, Tasha was born 4 years later. So maybe them going to Tarkana 4 was what made it worse. Made it worse. Not far off from where I was, Dave. Yeah. Very A-Team action-ish. Yes. Okay. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm probably not going to get through all the rest of this. This is true. She could have been dead for decades, or she could have, let's see. She could have lived to be 170? 2250s. Yeah, it was probably a stretch for Sato. Unless she found a way to preserve herself or go into cryo or something crazy. This is what I thought, Robert. Yeah. Suffered from being a movie after having been planned as a series. Like one of those things they would pull a stunt with Buck Rogers or the original Galactica in the late 70s. This could be, John. We'll have to see if Craig Sweeney gets to do any interviews. 6 out of 10 for you, Dave. Very true. Do we care? Did I say do we care? Oops. Hi, Anne-Marie. Yeah, I think it would have totally skewed our attention. And yes. I have to say hello to Joy online now. I didn't get a chance to do it that day. The clue to Lorca being Mirror Universe was the awful food he ate. They seem to just eat body parts. 4 out of 10. Yes. But that's the one thing I've seen everybody being very verbal and erudite and on the nose. I've not seen any mudslinging, no crudity, no just crass. Everybody has discussed this whole situation, I'd say politely and civilly, but just use your words. Don't settle for slinging mud and 4 letters or 5 letters or whatever you got in the quiver. More Kovic is your default wish. Yes, and a good job you do too. Mm-hmm. But Cronenberg is probably down with all the eyeball eating. Okay. Hi, Baron Fade. New Trek is so bad. But that's a pretty broad brush there, Baron. I would disagree with that because I think most everybody here loves Lower Decks. And yes. Well, look, we decided this a week ago. The Sharonians, Beale was in a shuttlecraft. The Sharonians are off planet. Federation has contact with them. They're independent, but they obviously have starships with interstellar capacity, if not intergalactic capacity. They have colonies elsewhere, I'm sure. The world, or other people, they were at least on other ships. He may be the rare bird. It's also been, what do we got? It says 70, 30. It's also been 53 years since then. So those survivors have had time to repopulate a little bit. There you go. Oh, I'm going to have to really clean up here. I feel like we've had a shift change. The Delta shift has come in now. Yes, absolutely, May, on Anne Marie. Yes. Yes, Garrett and her leadership capacity and her ability to think. Yes. Yes, you're allowed to say that, Sean. Okay. Hey, Steve Areno. Gonna watch it tonight. Can it hold a candle? Really? Did we just spoil the hell out of it for you, though, Steve? Sorry about that. EOC T10. Oh, T minus end of. Yes. Gotta wrap it, guys. Gotta wrap it. I can't keep Rod waiting. Yeah. Well, that's just a Starfleet dimension given. The floor is never out of phase. The floors are all made out of phaseless material. Kinda. I mean, I don't mind. Like I said, I was more invested in her than anybody else. Oh, really? Section 31 has colors, dark purple, orange, and pink instead of neon. That is weird. Well, it's a century. Stephen. Lots of things can happen in a century. Watch your U.S. history. Yeah. Oh, being very generous here, John. 775 or an 8. Okay. Yeah, will we ever see any of these characters again? That's the thing. Okay, I gotta go, gang. Gotta go. Just gonna say real fast. I love it. Everybody keep this. This will all be in the live chat. Good to see everybody. Thank you for jumping by. Sorry we had a cut short time. It's one of those Tuesdays. I'll be back on Tuesday, hopefully next week. Good Lord willing, and the flat tires don't rise too low. Once again, thank you for everybody. If you want to join our Patreon, boom, there it is, 5 and 10. Very simple. Thanks to all our Patreoners. Again, our TTL Club and our live wires. Yeah. The Trek Files, big news, back for season 13. Somebody mentioned it. Larry Niven, the known space author who gave us the slavers, the slaver weapon, and the Kazenti. All of that, then and now, is on. He got on with us and we talked very quietly about the whole thing. You want to take a listen. It's up today. We are back for season 13, baby. And of course, we've got our fancy home at Memory Alpha at thetrekfiles.com in the middle of all of that. There's the socials, gang. It's all the same. Larry Nemechuk on Twitter and YouTube. Please subscribe while you're here if you're new. And on Blue Sky is my oozing new social of choice. Larry's Trekland on Facebook and Instagram. And Portal47.net, your backstage guide to all things Star Trek. All the Star Trek you had no idea about. Join us then. Hey, everybody, we'll be back next week. Please, as we're getting out of here, as always, take care of your, stay healthy, do all the things. It's a trifecta out there right now. Stay woke, check the sources, and Trek well, everybody.